let's hop in the trust tree, my friends. It's honesty hour. We got something that needs to be talked about. And today, Alex, we need to talk about catchers. Why, you ask? Because catchers continue to be the most undervalued position, arguably, in all of sports. Certainly in baseball. I get tired of hearing about catchers' offensive numbers, right? If you look at a catcher, there's really probably 3 or 4 catchers in the league that hit above league average. That's not the catcher's sole job. It's to catch a pitching staff. It's to be the leader of the team, the leader of the defense. When a play's happening, the catcher is the only player that sees everything happening in that direction, out in front of them. So what we've seen over the last couple of years, I believe, is catchers continuing to be undervalued, especially guys like the first one that comes to mind, Martin Maldonado with the Astros. For years, we've seen him hit under 200 on the year, under the Mendoza line, and guess what? He continues to be a staple in that team, and I would argue one of the elite catchers, or just elite, as I labeled him earlier in the year, because of how good he is with that pitching staff. So we just needed to show catchers some love today. You know, it was important to do so because I feel like fans of the game will look at baseball, will look at a field and see, wow, the catcher's hitting 200. He must not be very good. But what they mean to a pitching staff as a whole. Look at the Minnesota Twins this year with Christian Vázquez now signing a catcher, getting a guy there that they believe can be a staple catcher for their organization. Last year in team ERA, they were 19th. This year, they're up to 6th. Yes, they've added Pablo Lopez, who's been very good, but I truly believe having a good backstop that can call a good game, can catch a good game, and can lead and talk to a pitching staff is so huge for the game of baseball and huge for so many teams around the league.
I've had this debate with numerous friends that are baseball fanatics. And it's crazy that we don't talk about it more, that a catcher is the heart and soul of the team. They're the ones who are calling the game and running the game with the pitcher. And I have talked to dozens of pitchers, whether they pitched a complete game. I've talked to pitchers after they threw no hitters. Every single pitcher thanks the catcher for calling such an incredible game. It is just as much the catcher's job as it is the pitcher's job to control the pace of the game, what is happening, and as you mentioned, seeing what is happening throughout the field and keeping the entire pitching staff comfortable with them and their pitches and calling the pitches throughout an at-bat. Like, it is crazy that we don't talk about it more, of how important they are to every single game.
It is by far the hardest position on the field, and I have no problem saying that. It's the one position that I had never played in my entire life. I have never put on catcher's gear, ever. It hasn't happened. It is definitely the hardest position to play. You walk into a locker room after the game, and every catcher is getting treatment, taking an ice bath, doing something because they just beat up their bodies so much. So I just look around the league this year, and I watch some of these teams, and I can't not think of how valuable catchers are. And this is what kind of brought this to light. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this is just because I feel like I watch games and I'm like, this catcher deserves so much credit, and you don't really talk about him a ton. And Sean Murphy, for example, the Braves' big pickup of the offseason. Last year with the Oakland A's, let's look at the hole he filled in Atlanta and the hole he left in Oakland. This year in Oakland, the A's have arguably the worst pitching numbers in the history of baseball. And is that all Sean Murphy's doing, that he's gone? Well, no. But he is now in Atlanta, and the Braves pitching staff is doing very well there. And having a catcher behind the plate that's known as a defensive guy, he can also hit. But those other catchers that the Braves have had, and Contreras and d'Arnaud, haven't necessarily been great defensive catchers or great guys at calling a game. And the rotation this year has been unbelievable. Cal Raleigh with the Mariners. Cal Raleigh, we've talked to a couple of pitchers of the Mariners on this show before, Logan Gilbert being one of them, was very vocal about Cal Raleigh and what he has meant to him and his career in the minor leagues. Cal Raleigh started these truth meetings that he would have with pitchers.
Wait, he had honesty hour? He had honesty hour.
And he would do it with his pitchers and basically just say, hey, here's what you're doing poorly, and here's what you're doing well, and here's what we need to figure out. And now he has this rotation in Seattle who's dominant and great. So catchers need loving too.
Yeah,
and
they do.
Speaking of Cal Raleigh, Alex, this Wednesday episode of Flippin Bats, tomorrow, Cal Raleigh is the guest, the
epic.
big dumper himself. By the way, had to ask the man from his own words.
Yeah.
Tell me about the nickname.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, check out Cal Raleigh for sure.
Oh, I'm excited about that. Well, since we're in the honesty tree right now, right?
You got something for me?
Yeah, we got to be honest.
Mad at me for something?
No, we got to be honest about the Mariners. You were just talking about Cal, right? Catcher for the Mariners. They have not had the start to the season that we have expected. However, they did win the series against the Cardinals this past weekend. Does it seem or feel like they're finally turning that corner? Are we going to see? I mean, they have J-Rod, one of the most exciting young players in the league. They have incredible pitching. Their pitching staff in general has been great. What's going wrong? And have we seen them finally maybe start to shift in the right direction?
Yeah, I'm not ready yet to say that the Mariners are turning a corner. Okay. They had a good series against the Cardinals, who, just to be flat out honest, are not a good baseball team right now. And the Cardinals, not referring to the Mariners. The Cardinals are not good, and you got to beat up on them right now, and the Mariners did that. But they got swept earlier in the week, so I'm not yet ready to say that they've turned a corner, that I do expect them to turn. But I will say that I do like what I'm starting to see from the Mariners. I love what I've seen from Jared Kelenic all year long, right? Hit another home run on Sunday. This is the prospect that we were all promised from the Mariners, and we're getting him. I like what I'm starting to see from Julio Rodriguez, who I've said many times I believe is going to be a face of the game of baseball, is a freak talent and a superstar in this game. He's starting to turn that corner and playing well. You have the home run trident that they've brought out that I'm a big fan of.
I love that so much. Even just if you're watching the show right now and you're seeing almost every home run, all of them holding the trident. I mean, it is majestic.
It is. Majestic is a great word for it. It's also life size. I mean, it is taller than Julio.
Is it sharp? Is it real? Like, these are all the questions I have to know.
It's taller than every player on the team.
Like full metal.
It's enormous. Heavy? So, on a serious note, I'm not yet ready to say that corner has been turned. I believe this Mariners team is capable of again getting into the playoffs and doing damage in the playoffs. I wholeheartedly believe that, and they are not there yet. But with the rotation of Luis Castillo, who's been one of the best pitchers in the game of baseball this year, and Gilbert and George Kirby and Robbie Ray set to come back at some point, but he's been out so far. They're only going to get better, and the guys in the offense that haven't yet been clicking on all cylinders that you know they will. Julio, we're starting to see that more. Teoscar Hernandez. And if you can get from Jared Kelenic what you're getting right now all year long, this team is going to be a force, and I have no doubts the Mariners can do damage in the playoffs. Absolutely. But to answer your question, not yet ready to say they're turning.